But so to rank them,
So if we include everything, then we're talking about 130?
118, 118.8.
I thought
Paul, one question. If you do have a 2020 Ford Explorer auto accident, is one of your mutual aid departments have this equipment, or what kind of response time are you looking at for waiting on that?
yeah. So any serious crash, we right now we're gonna call Calabash for their equipment. And their rescue truck with their tools is downtown Calabash. So you know we're gonna go to work, but there's definitely some challenges with the tools we currently have. We've done a lot of extrication training, and we've gotten vehicles to cut up and know the limitations, and but there's new technology. It's the significant differences. So
Jamie, what do you think?
I think for right now,
Sorry about that. For right now, I think the radios and the hydraulic tools are the top issues for me right now.
Tom?
Radios, for sure. The vehicle, for me, from the way you described it, I mean, it's on its, and it could break down any day from what you explained.
yeah, it's pushing right at the 10-year mark. Staff vehicles typically in the fire department try to get 10 years out of. It's showing its age, and it's, the some of the big things that we've tried to do. When I first got here 2.5 years ago, I started looking at now analyzing operations, equipment, and big trucks. And operationally, we shored some things up. Equipment wise, we developed a replacement plan. You know, right now it's why I'm working on a grant for AirPack, SCBA's.
Mm-hmm.
I submitted that grant. That's a $220,000 project just for Sunset Beach, and we did a regional grant with Ocean Isle to try to get that funded. Because I know that's coming down the pipe. The big truck, the big fire apparatus, we did an analysis, and it's one of the reasons why we ended up selling the old ladder truck. And the goal is to go from 5 big trucks, say they're $1 million a piece, or $750,000 on average. Plus you got maintenance and equipment and repairs over the course of its life. We're going from 4 big trucks to 5. So that moves. We're cutting $1 million out of the budget over the next 15 to 20 years based off of that, just to make things more operational efficient, cut down on the big expenditures, and have a plan. But when we cut some of that stuff down, if we don't follow the plan with radio replacements or air packs or hydraulic tools, stuff piles up down the line. So we've spent quite a bit of time with, in the fire department. It's a big deal for the community, and having that plan and staying on track is definitely key. And when we can stay on track with those replacement things, then you're not hammered with millions down the line. We're also trying to, the grant thing's huge. Well, every grant we get, when we get a grant for an AED for $3,500, it's $3,500, but it's still $3,500 we can put towards something else to make the department better.
Sure.
So,
So the one thing I will say is that if capital is going to be absorbed into all of this, it wouldn't be just fire fees matching operation. We would just have to eliminate that fund balance for the fire department because that wouldn't be necessary anymore because the reserve for the fire fees would have been to use towards future capital. But if it's not going to support that, then we wouldn't have that anymore. Like if the general fund is going to be, paying for that capital, it would just that would relinquish that extra fund balance that we have.
So you're
Yeah.
saying that if we take all of this, that you take that money from the reserve?
No, I mean, yeah, so that reserve would go into this budget. I don't know exactly what that number is or how much that would get them this year. But I'm just saying that there wouldn't be an excess anymore.
So different words. The fact that we have put the second truck on a payment plan, and we're putting the equipment in to buy it sort of as we need it, eliminates the whole purpose that we had in the past for doing a reserve fund
For the fire department.
for the fire department.
Yeah,
yeah,
so it would
so-
just be part of the town's capital reserve plan
Yeah.
instead of a separate
Yeah.
capital reserve plan.
So in the small thing, you dropped 19,000 off of this budget, but you had the $20,000 radios back in, and then
And I'll look and see what exactly we have in that assigned fund balance.
So if we didn't do any of this, what would happen to that reserve that's in the fund balance? It would just
I
sit
mean,
there?
it still has to stay there.
It would just sit there.
So if it's not going to be used, then it has to go into the fire department's reserve. But if they're saying that these things are necessary, I guess what I'm saying is if these things are necessary, and we see this improvement plan moving forward, and the fire fees are not going to support that plan going forward of what the capital is laid out as, there's not going to be a reserve.
So how much is in the reserve now?
That's what I said. I need to get that number. And it's not a lot at this point.
So it doesn't support 120,000?
No, I don't believe so.
Wait, you said 120?
I mean, the sale of the other fire truck was what was in the audit. So we sold that prior year.
Yeah.
And so in the audit, it looks like there's like 400,000 in there, but then we spent the 275.5 on the fire truck as a down payment in
Right.
this fiscal year, which that reduced that fund balance. And then the equipment that the fire department was approved for in October also came out of that fund balance for the fire department. So that reduced it even more. So my guess would be maybe 30,000. But that's a very rough guess.
So I'm not sure I get all the subtleties there, but so we're saying that if we approve all of this, we likely wouldn't be looking at a tax increase to support the
For the
spend?
whole budget?
Well,
we aren't there yet.
Right.
We're only scratching the surface at this point. But I think what is coming out is if we put all of this in there for right now, with the idea that we drop the reserve fund line because the fact that the reserve fund was started out so we'd have money to build up to start to pay for a truck, to buy a truck, buy big equipment and things like that. And we've gone through, and one, we're not doing
Right
that,
there,
and two, we've
because
got
we're
two
gonna
trucks
support
that we've got under a payment plan now. So
so
The re-
Just come out of our fund.
what we don't pay,
It
what
wouldn't
we
be
are
able
not
to cover
able
this
to
now. Just
cover
there would
in
be no
fire
more reserve
fees, if we want to keep it in the budget, we're gonna have to take it out of the other revenue that comes in as part of the budget. It's not gonna be covered by the fire fees.
Right.
I mean, fire fees are what they are.
Yeah.
So,
And the percentage. The only thing that changes with the fire fees, unless they change the rate, is the number of new houses that come in and add that percentage tax
right.
onto their fire fees. Uh,
So I guess that we leave it in with an understanding that if we have to shave,
yeah.
we'll have to think about it.
I'd say leave it in, cut the 19.2 reserve fund out of it for our calculations now, and then work through the rest of the budget, and then go back and look at the whole package and see where and what we're going to cut, what we're going to change at the end.
I can't,
Is that acceptable?
that's
Yeah,
fine.
to
I
me.
can't see taking any of this out. I mean, there's,
Okay, so we just said, okay, so
you got it?
I'm sorry,
So-
I can't hear you.
Do you have it?
so
Yeah.
leave those 3 items in, cut that 19.2 reserve fund.
With those 3 items, what does that do to the reserve fund?
No, cut it. Take that
Yes.
line
Yeah,
out.
right.
Okay. So what happens is we basically cover the radios just about with that, and
Right.
we still keep the truck and the tools, the vehicle and the tools in there. And we will still have, when we finish at the end of the
It's the
day,
118.
yeah, when we finish at the end of the day, we're gonna go back through and
Yeah, I just need to look and see what's in the
come
other.
up with other priorities to see what we can do. All right?
Right.
So do you want to do accommodation tax before you leave too? So accommodation tax is also part of the fire department and part of the streets.
Which tab are we at?
Oh, 18.
18.
The unique thing about accommodation tax, even though it is not part of our general fund, every single decision that you make in accommodation tax affects our revenue for general fund. So even though it won't raise our general fund expenditures, it reduces our general fund revenue. If that makes sense.
Because at the end of the year, whatever's left in the accommodations tax is moved into the general fund.
Okay.
So there's a line in here for 316,180 that's transferred to, it says transferred to reserve, but it's transferred to general fund. So that is actually in our general fund revenues as 316,000. So anything that you add back in here. So if you add the monuments in here for 33,000, that's going to reduce our general fund revenue by 33,000. So it still affects the bottom line of general fund.
So the monuments were not from this year's budget, it was for next year's budget.
Correct.
Oh, I thought, okay.
I mean, that's just an example. I mean, there's the drone, and then there was 2 UTVs, and then the bathroom on the beach, or at the gazebo. So any of those expenses that get raised in accommodation tax is going to reduce our revenue in general fund because of the transfer. So it would reduce our revenue in general fund if we did all of these by 118,000, I think is what it is. I mean, that's just if you did all of them.
So we're talking about the monuments, a drone, 2 UTVs, and a bathroom.
Right.
And I can go ahead and tell you that the monuments fee has gone up because of the additionals on Main Street and Canal Drive to 41,000.
Which is basically $1,000 a monument. It's-
Why were we looking to replace the monuments? Just for aesthetics or?
Because they're in need of repair. They're crumbling and falling apart, and they're concrete monuments that we can't repair them. We have to replace them.
Well, the ones that I've seen, they're not falling apart to the point that they're falling down. I mean, yeah, they've worn because of weather and things like that, and certainly the lettering needs to be fixed. that's all worn away.
Right. This quote includes the letters will actually be molded into the monument to where right now they're stenciled and painted on. So it would be a more attractive, but it's definitely not something that you necessarily have to do. And you may not want to do them all. You may want to
Can-
go back through and look at the ones that are actually,
Is the price based on, the price right now is based on replacing everything? But if we went back through and found that the 10 of them are actually falling apart and need to be replaced, will the contractor do?
We have to go back and see, if he does 10, what would the price be? So this was a bulk price for doing any. So he gave us a good rate, so, but we had to go back and ask him. So if you done 10, 12, what would it be just for that?
Do you know any of them that are to the point that they're falling down or falling apart or anything?
They've been here, these monuments been here probably since the 80s, probably the 90s when they were put in.
Yeah,
So they've been out there in the weather quite a while.
yeah.
Even though we wash them, paint them, then the Sunset Vision has painted them in the past for us. We've tried to keep up with them, but over time, the wear and tear of the environment they sit in it's catching up with them.
I mean, to me, if I had to choose between the monuments and, say, the extraction tool or radios, I would pick the radios and extraction tool over the monuments. That's my feeling.
Yeah. We already have a nonprofit that's willing to do the painting and do the stenciling. I would say, we can go through and pretty them up a little bit for this season. We can get an accurate count of how many actually need to be replaced, and then address that as we go forward in the future.
Okay.
To do that. If it's a lesser cost, that will come in.
Okay.
We'll see. We may end up with more flexibility with the accommodation because the accommodation taxes are continuing to come in at a higher rate than previous rates. So
Okay,
Yeah, I
good.
actually bumped it up quite a bit for
Yeah.
this next year per what our trending has been over the past couple of years.
yeah. I would think in budgeting process though, before we took the accommodation tax and threw it back into the general budget, we should account for how much we're going to spend. I'm not sure if that's making sense, but the accommodation tax is supposed to go, primarily to support the marketing, the support to visitors,
Well,
tourism, and
the other
things
part
like
of that is that it also supports our police department, also supports our fire department
Right.
and administration, anything that also goes along with everybody coming here, like managing the accommodation tax, all of that. So that's why there's a transfer
Yeah,
from accommodation tax to general fund.
Yeah.
And so it automatically, whenever something's taken out of accommodation tax, it automatically raises revenue in general fund. Something's added to accommodation tax, it decreases. It's directly linked because of the way that it's used for Sunset Beach.
okay.
and it's virtually impossible to capture the police and fire and public works for when they're specifically working on tourist related items
Yeah.
versus regular. So that's why
Okay.
that transfer is done as a lump sum instead of us trying to account for hour to hour, especially in the personnel lines.
Well, when I look at it, I see that the monuments can be postponed, that the UTVs, as part of a regular replacement plan that we have, needs to be continued to that, and I guess the bathroom too. Those get used heavily, and as we've shown this year, our season continues to expand. So,
So what would we use the drone for again? And who would use it?
The drone, there's a couple different kind of goals, and Deputy Chief Adams is looking into it and been talking to a lot of different beaches along the coast and all the way to Florida. So one of the goals is to get a drone that could potentially, if somebody's caught in a rip current, drop a life jacket, okay, offshore a little bit, or a flotation device of some sort. The other goal would be to have the drone, one, it would have a camera on it, so it could have some overhead if we're missing somebody or a kid. But also, if somebody gets stuck in one of the canals at low tide, as we've experienced those challenges already, where people are sitting out there for sometimes a couple hours, we could drop a bottle of water to them if they need it or something like that. And without getting too far in the weeds, currently, Deputy Chief Adams, if council's supportive of the idea, Deputy Chief Adams is going to oversee it, not only acquisition, but putting plans and policies together, usage, and primarily be responsible for it. And then as the program expand it to a couple other folks that would operate it and so forth. But I don't have those exact answers yet. But really the goal of it was to try to expand to some areas to help people and provide a little bit more service if somebody's stuck in a canal, drop a flotation device, have the overhead view.
I mean, if it's someone stuck someplace, certainly there's other ways to get there. Whether you can actually drop a life ring to someone.
That's with the canals and low tide currently, Tubbs Inlet especially, and even up towards Bonaparte Creek. There's times when we can't get there.
Mhm.
There's, even if the county sheriff's department, if we call for their airboat, there's times when we can't get our jet ski and our boat into those areas, and the airboat is not getting there either. So that's the
No, well,
Yeah.
Is the drone the save all? Not necessarily, but there are times that we can't get into those creek areas to stranded kayakers or have to. We're going to try to get there, but there's already been circumstances where it's borderline or we can't.
and then the bathroom would be bathroom number 4, right? And the idea being, we have a bathroom out by the gazebo and a replacement because they have different plumbing, and then bathroom by Main Street and a replacement. And we've just put the gazebo replacement bathroom in. The new bathroom is installed there now. Is that correct?
Yeah, the new bathroom for the gazebo is at the gazebo. The
Yeah.
one we just refurbished is at Main Street. That's the one we've always had
Yeah.
that we refurbished. That's the one's at Main Street now. And that's the one we're talking about replacing, or not replacing, but get the spare is one at the Main Street. So we have a second one like we do have for the gazebo itself.
right.
So when one pulls out for maintenance, I can put one back into place. So there's always a bathroom out there at all times.
Well, for me, the UTVs and the bathroom are the things that we need.
Yep. Mr. Borman, if I can't, a little bit more on the drone. That's not a must in my book. We can live without the drone and that expense. I think it provides some additional support to operations, but we'll make things happen without that. Comparatively to say the UTVs, if we're trying to keep those on a replacement plan,
Sure.
if we don't have UTVs, we don't have as many beach patrollers on the strand.
Right.
Type it. So, I know in the fire department discussion, you asked me to rank things. Definitely the priority for beach patrol is the UTVs over the drone. The drone, I think it would show its value to us in the community over time, but if there's not money for that, I would take that out.
What's the cost of the drone?
We estimated 10,000, and it may be less than that based off of Deputy Chief Adams's research so far, but that's going to have to include not only purchasing the drone, other equipment, some training, and then there's certifications and the FAA stuff too, all involved. So he said it'll be under $10,000. How much under? I'm not exactly sure how it would wash out.
I would recommend removing the drone at this time and letting them come back with a comprehensive plan and some more exact figures that you all could consider later in the year.
So
Yeah.
what are the costs for the UTVs and the bathroom?
The cost of the UTVs is a total of 20,000 for 2 of them, and then the bathroom is 55,000.
At this point, I tend to agree with Tom to strike through the monuments and the drone, and at this point, leave the bathrooms and the UTVs in place.
Agree.
Agree.
So that's a 75,000 addition. Okay.
Before we hit the next department, why don't we take a 5-minute break?
Sure.
All right.
I got a bunch of other things to do as well that probably is.
go back into session, and which department's next?
I'm on now. On tab 19, the beach erosion fund, this is the restricted funds that can only be used for the beach renourishment or the walkways or any of that. So where
Does
we
that
are,
come out of accommodations? Or no?
yes, it's a percentage of the 5% that we collect. This is the 2%
Okay,
that is restricted of those 5%.
got it.
So where Dustin is right now is we've hired a professional, a structural engineer firm to come in and give us an evaluation on all 33 walkways and then to give us a replacement schedule. Some of the walkways that are out there now have been standing there for 40 years. So we need a professional to tell us which ones need to be replaced when, and then we will develop a schedule going forward, and that work will be contracted out. In the summer, we'll release the bids so that, and then notice to award can start in September to be finished up by March 31st. So we're hoping that we'll have a lot more work in one single close-knit area and that we would be able to get more bidders to give us competitive bids. Instead of just doing one walkway or Dustin's crew doing a walkway and all their other duties fall short, we are going forward with a replacement program for the walkways that are done by contractors, not in-house any longer.
Okay, so
And
the first
just-
part, we've already
just-
paid for that, for a study to be done? Or we're paying for a study to be done? That's already been contracted out?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for extra information, if our accommodation tax maintains where it's going and what I'm thinking it's going to be next year, what we have budgeted in this is less than the revenue we'll get. So we'll still be building that fund, even with the 350,000.
So the 350 is basically a placeholder.
So that's already
Until-
in the budget.
I'm sorry?
So that's already accounted for in the budget.
Yes, on this tab 19.
It has its own separate budget. It doesn't affect general fund at all. Because it can only be used. So there's a fund balance there of over $1 million that can only be used on beach nourishment and walkways.
Oh,
So are we trying to replace all 33 walkways in a year? Or-
Oh, no.
Just replacing them getting a schedule to replace them over time.
Did we give the contractor sort of a timeline to space this out? I mean, like, are we looking at a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan?
Once they evaluate them, then they'll be able to tell us which ones are in dire need and which ones can wait, 20, 30 years. Some of the ones that they've just finished, like 6th Street, will probably not have to be touched for structurally again for 20, 30 years. So it could be a 30-year schedule.
And that includes, that they're working on includes figuring out which one is going to be our next ADA walkway? Or is that already separately?
Well, we know that 40th Street is going to be converted into a walkway. We have those plans and everything and ready. So 40th Street will definitely be included in the bid that's released in the summer.
Okay.
what does one walkway go for, roughly, roundabout?
It's about $150 a foot.
Yeah,
$150 a foot.
yeah, they range from 200 foot long out to 600 foot long. So there are different lengths of ones. Then you got to throw in the building code into it. Now it also dictates what you got to do, and plus CAMA dictates what you have to do. So it's going to fluctuate in price.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks. Okay, good.
And I guess while we're having a discussion about the walkways, a citizen had sent an email wanting to know about placing benches on the walkways. And Dustin and Carrie and I have talked about that. And I'll let Dustin explain. It's sort of hard to picture, but we'll try our best to explain why this isn't, we won't want to do this.
Back in 2012, the code changed, the building code did, for benches that are allowed, on walkways or anywhere on. So basically, you have to be able to get 3 foot from the guardrail to the back of your bench, 3 foot distance. If you can't get that distance, then you have to put a bench up against the guardrail. We still have to put the guardrail at 42 inches. That's the code for commercial. Then you have to go from the sitting area that you sit at, another 42 inches above that, to put another guardrail on top of that.
So people don't jump over
So people don't
or fall over.
Right.
Right.
The kids, anybody like that that's sitting in the chair, when they stand up in the chair, they can't fall over. So you have one guardrail at 42, then you got to put another guardrail above that at the sitting area, another 42 inches above.
So what you would be looking at if you're in an oceanfront house looking at the ocean, you're going to see all of these poles with guardrails where every one of these benches would be placed.
And if we done a whole sitting area, you basically would be sitting almost like in a cage. Like basically what you'd be sitting in.
So that's why we're not recommending moving forward with placing benches, any more benches on the walkways.
So if there's benches there already,
If there are benches there already, they were built before the code changed. We built them back in 2011. 2012, the code changed. So as we've been going forth and been taking them out, we have not been putting them back.
so you can't put them back
Unless- Unless
You
we
need
bring
them.
them up to code to what it is today.
right.
And if you
Okay,
go to the gazebo, reason why we were able to get away with the gazebo because we got the 3 foot separation difference that could get in there from the guardrail to the bench you have now. So we were able to do that and not impact the travel lane for the people to go through. The walking
so
path.
did we respond back to the resident that, I think I saw that note.
I will now.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the beach erosion. We all good with that one?
Yep,
Accommodations tax.
Sunset at Sunset, I talked to Karen, and we'll just keeping that the same.
tab.
which tab?
The Sunset at Sunset Fund, 21,180. The committee chair is comfortable with that budget.
Which tab?
What tab?
17.
Right,
And the committee is meeting. They are accepting applications and they are moving forward with holding the festival in October.
We expect-
Has the location been resolved?
No, it has not.
This Sunset at Sunset Fund at, well, we didn't have Sunset at Sunset last year, but at the end of the festival, when all the accounting is done, I hate to use the word profit because it's not really, but I'll use it. Profit just stays in the fund.
They have their own fund. It's completely separate from general fund. It has no effect on the town's general fund whatsoever. So they actually have their own fund balance. Their fund balance is roughly 20,000.
So the point being, Sunset at Sunset is self-supporting, self-funding, and the money that gets generated
Yeah, we
in
don't
this
add.
year's market goes to support preparing for and running the next year market,
Correct.
and on and on and on. Okay.
Mhm. Correct. Everybody
Okay.
good with that?
good.
PAL bill is number 16.
So PAL bill funding has reduced again this year just a little bit, but we are conservative in that, so we're still in line with 142,000. We're only budgeting in the infrastructure and repair and maintenance for street paving because it really doesn't support any of the other things that you can use it for. Our paving costs more than that. So for reporting purposes, it's way easier to just use the funds for the paving.
Okay.
Okay, good.
That's pretty much
Yeah.
it for that.
And what we did at the last meeting was using the current year
Right.
Powell bill.
Yeah, for the street.
And-
Yep.
Okay.
14, environmental protection.
So we removed natural disaster out of there because it is a variable in order to get us closer to where we were at. So that 50,000 that we've been holding in there for a natural disaster, we did take it out just because it's not something that's necessary to have. It's good practice to have. But with our revenues and capital not lining up, we don't have extra to have a placeholder really for that.
Tara's assured me there's going to be no hurricanes this year, no natural disasters, so we won't need this money.
It really was. I mean, we can absolutely put it back, but it really was just to show you that we don't have excess to hold aside. I mean, you can choose to hold that there, but we typically, like this year we were lucky. We didn't spend $50,000, but you just never know. It could be
So-
next year we do have a hurricane.
One of the explanations in past years was that fund was so that we had money immediately available so that we could
Yep.
hire a contractor the day after the storm to start picking up and doing recovery, if you will.
I mean, you can still
And-
do
and-
that. It's
and-
best practice to have that. You can still spend the money. Emergency situations allow for different things to happen, but it's way better to have money there. Like the best practice is to have some money there, but it's not a necessity. It's just a really, really good idea.
And what my experience has been is that when we are in an emergency situation, most of our bulk is payroll. Because with police and fire, they bring everybody back since they are such limited staff. So those, of course, are captured in those payroll lines. And then we have an awesome volunteer fireman in firefighter Gimbal that is very experienced with FEMA and filling out forms and getting those reimbursements started. In fact, this is the first year since I've been with this town and we've been dealing with FEMA on reimbursements. We've already received our first check concerning Hurricane Isis. That's the first time it's ever happened in the same basic budget year
Same fiscal year.
that we've received money. Now with Isis, we're only looking at about 35,000, but we have received about 10 of that already. So I don't know if they're streamlining things, but Rick has handled 100% of that.
So are we
So-
cross-training somebody else to do that when he gets tired of it?
I'm hoping that there's a fireman down there that's watching. And if not, I'll make sure that they are.
So then this is a reimbursement from FEMA.
No.
No, this 50,000 isn't.
It's a potential reimbursement.
Right.
It's there so that we have money to spend, and if we do spend money out of there, it would be a reimbursement eventually, possibly.
But sometimes it's taken a couple years to get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The concern I had, do we have a company online as a contingency contract that will start immediately?
We
Or so that we do not, so we don't have to go through and go out for bids and get somebody right after a
We
storm?
piggyback with the county. So it's whoever the county goes out for the bids for. I mean, it is a good practice to have your own as well set up for that, and you can do that.
And we do have that language in our contract with our yard debris contractor, don't we? Yes? Yes?
Yeah,
Yes.
Good.
okay. So we don't need that 50,000 in the budget there.
We don't
Although
think
you
so.
said, Tara,
This is
you
where
said
it would-
it's a
this
really
is-
good thing to have.
It is, because when that's enacted, that's where that would come out of. Like with us having the contractor that we have, it's not going to come out of the line where we typically have it. It's going to come out of this. So, but in an emergency situation, we can go ahead and enact it, and then I have to come back to you and say, we need to add this money into this line in a budget amendment.
Okay.
So you could put
The
it back
point
in
is,
and see what
it
happens.
does not delay any actions on our part to start the hurricane recovery. It just requires a after the fact, scramble or adjustment to identify the money and put it in there.
Correct.
I think the main argument to previous councils was to give us the ability to go out right away and start the recovery effort and have the funds there to do the contracting or whatever.
Right. And I think in those years, Dustin and his crew was still taking care of leaf and limb. And that's why we would need to be able to go out for contract. But since we're under contract already.
Okay.
So you could leave
Anybody
it in
else?
as a placeholder and see where we go at the end. Or you could say keep it out already. Or you could cut it in half.
Yeah, I mean, there's no specified amount that you have
Yeah.
to have there.
I'd say cut it now.
Good with me.
Anybody else?
Did you say cut it now or
cut
cut
it.
it in half?
Cut it now.
Cut it now. Take it out.
It's already out. So.
Well,
Okay.
leave it out.
Yeah.
Don't put it in.
Okay. 13 is sanitation.
And these are basically, I've gone through our contracts and what they're going to look like. So this one pretty much just is what it is. We haven't used the landfill as much as we have in previous years, so we reduced that one. And then,
What is Ike Williamson?
that's also like landfill collection. It's not the tipping fees, it's when he doesn't, he has his own.
It's where if we cut any limbs or anything out of the right of way or brush or anything like that, this is where we would take it to, out there on Georgetown Road.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of hauling it all the way to the landfill, all the way to the supply, we just could run right here between Sunset and Ocean Isle up here on Georgetown to that site there.
Okay.
Or actually on the other side of Ocean Isle, actually.
Okay.
And so we reduced that as well because we haven't used it as much.
Any questions?
No
Yeah.
questions.
Stormwater. You got any other?
Public buildings would be,
Where is it?
it's probably, it's number 7.
Okay. Public infrastructure. In the handouts that Cindy passed out to you all today, you have this preliminary option. This is the parking lot next door.
Was that part of,
I'm sorry, which one was that?
it's part of the staff report package.
Right. Yeah, unpaper clip that because there's 4 or 5 in that package that you got. Okay. So we are ready to start the parking lot. All the engineering has been done, all the plans have been done. You've got the site plan attached that shows everything Dustin has been through. with Chad and everybody, once you all give the go-ahead to do this, this will need to go through the planning board for site plan approval to make sure that we meet all of our regulations. And Dustin has worked with Chad, and Chad has worked with the engineers and the landscapers to ensure that we've met all of the UDO requirements. So it'll basically just be a,
Presentation.
yeah, just an agenda item on the planning board's agenda for them to go through and review.
Yeah.
And then we would be ready to award the contract or let it out for bids to award the contract. So this 325,000 is not in the budget, but this does include 2 rain gardens. And I know it's hard to see, but if you're looking at the map in the parking lot, this little area right here is a rain garden area. And then this area shaded here is the other rain garden. So it's basically on each end of Town Hall. Out here at the Pine View intersection is the first rain garden right up against Town Hall. And then the second one is in the front corridor at the chief's office beside the main entrance. And then this is sidewalked to join the sidewalk at Town Hall. And it's landscaped, everything that we would have to do to be in compliance with our own rules and regulations. So, of course, we don't have $325,000 in this budget to find. So this would have to be a conscious effort to recognize that you will be pulling this money straight from general fund to proceed with the parking lot. So basically what we need to do with budgeting is if you want this, we need to add this in, and then she would be doing an appropriation from fund balance into the 21-22 budget.
Which we can do for capital.
Right. You don't want to have to pull out of general fund, or I guess you cannot pull out of general fund for operating. You just don't want to do that. You want your revenues to support your operating budget. And then you build your general fund reserve for capital items such as this.
And so what is the condition of our general fund reserve?
If everybody was to spend everything that's left in their budget at this point, which never happens, but I don't really have a way to judge what a very accurate number for that, but it would be at the end of this fiscal year, because it's a shot, it's a photo of in time, like just a time stamp.
Yeah.
So at June 30th, if everybody spent their entire budget for this year, and with all the appropriations that we've done, our fund balance would reduce by about 200,000. My guess is that it's going to be, well, I know it's going to be less than that. That will actually come out of fund balance. So, I mean, our fund balance is still sitting in a very good position for us. We were right around 100%. But the percentage also depends on what the next budget is as well. So whatever our budget is for 21-22 versus the amount that's in fund balance, that judges the percentages. So it's possible. Like, we have the money to be able to do this out of fund balance. You do not ever want fund balance to be associated with any kind of operating salary, any kind of thing like that, because that means that it's going to continually go down. You're not supporting, the town's not supporting itself. It's using a reserve that it had from previous years to support itself.
But the fund balance is supposed to be used for stuff like this.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Like this, or the percentages that the LGC gives us is so that you know how long that you can maintain in the event of a catastrophe.
Yeah.
So,
And
I mean,
their
at this
guideline
point-
is 75%.
Right.
Right.
So at this
And we're
point, we
running
would
close
survive
to
a whole year.
100%. Yeah.
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 So you probably, it's.
I would say
fund
it'd probably
balance.
drop you down to probably about 75%. That's probably where we would end up after this, or close to that,
And the
because we have been
balance
building it.
is about 5 million.
Mhm.
About 5
It's
million
approximately 5 million.
is in general fund now,
So
fund balance.
parsing all those words, what I'm hearing you say is now's the time to go ahead and do this.
If it's council's desire. Mm-hmm.
Staff recommendation is to go ahead and do this.
Yes,
Yeah,
staff recommendation is definitely that this parking lot is a needed asset to be completed for the town, not only for the town staff, but for the council, planning board, citizens. This parking lot is definitely needed.
Well, we bought the land to make a parking lot. Let's make a parking lot.
Tom?
Yeah, I think, so if I understand it, right now, the fund balance is about 5 million, this 325 would come out of that.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
That works.
So we're adding
Okay,
the
yeah.
parking lot to this public infrastructure. So we'll let's go to 330 just to be safe. 330,000 for the parking lot.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds good.
And then the next thing, we had talked about the fountains for the ponds, the 10 ponds, 9 are behind us, one's at Fire Station 2. What we think the fountains will do is to decrease the mosquito population that actually comes to life and bites us. If we can get them, the larvae taken care of before they get to adult, then we've achieved at least. I don't think we'll be able to remove all the mosquitoes, but we would at least be able to get the waters that we're in control of moving. So if the eggs are there, they will not. And we've also purchased 27,000 minnows that are being put in our ponds right now that will help eat those larvae. And that only cost us a couple of $1,000s.
Which pond is this?
These are the 9 ponds that are behind us and the 1 pond at Fire Station 2 that we own and maintain.
So each pond would get a fountain?
I'll let Matt tell you where he's proposing to put the fountains.
Okay, I've been in contact with Solitude Lake Management about these ponds and which ones they believe would need a fountain and would help more with that, and ones that need an aeration system, like a submerged system that just moves the water. They gave me an estimate for 3 ponds with fountains, which is more aesthetically pleasing, obviously, but that total would be $17,000 for just 3 fountains. And the aeration system for the other 7 ponds, the submerged aeration system, would be $22,900. So you're looking at a total of over $40,000 with just the install of those particular items. Now, if you guys would rather have fountains in certain ponds, that way, homeowners could look at them at night or whatever the case may be, more aesthetically pleasing, then we can adjust this and add the fountains to those different ponds. But that's just with what the Solitude Lake Management has told me what they think would work best at these particular ponds.
And the difference between the fountains and the aeration, what is the aeration compared to the fountains?
It's mainly for the ones that have the aeration systems are longer ponds, more deep ponds, so we can put different diffusers at certain lengths underneath that will disturb the water, which would limit the larvae. The ponds with the fountains I mean, they're small enough to where one fountain could move the water and limit those mosquito larvae.
And the fountain is just a beautification,
Yeah.
aesthetically pleasing.
In really rough numbers, the fountains cost about a little less than 6,000 apiece, and the ponds cost about 3,000 apiece, the aeration.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a one-time install and setup. And then after that, obviously the price would reduce for them servicing it. They already service our ponds anyway, so they would be able to go out if they had to change pumps or whatever the case may be as far as repair. They would be able to do that. But this is, I mean, just the startup cost. This is what that would tell.
So this 40,000 is a one-time cost.
Now, and that does not include electricity or anything like that. That's just solitude lake management, putting them in the water.
So is there power there now?
No, sir, not at all of them. I'm trying to get in touch with the electrician to set up where different stations would be at, and then we would go through Brunswick Electric to tie into their line.
No
So-
idea of the cost.
No, sir, no idea the cost for that.
I don't know.
Justin's estimate is 400 to 500 per box.
Yeah.
$400 or $500. So we're
piece.
talking about another $5,000 roughly, $4,000 to $5,000 to
Yeah, the
do the
runtime.
electricity and the infrastructure to support the.
Yeah, because each one of these, you would have to put what you call a T-post.
Yeah.
Basically, I was down there at the park. So the time you put your panel pad or your box and everything together and run the wires in, yeah, you're probably looking around about 4 or 5 a piece, if not 6 a piece.
What do we do now about mosquitoes in those ponds?
We do nothing. We give out briquettes to the
Yeah.
homeowners that throw them in.
Yeah, yeah. And I come by with a truck when they get bad. That's it.
And twice when they're real bad.
That's right. That's it.
We think
Well-
that these fountains, along with these minnows and these aeration systems, will greatly improve or greatly decrease our mosquito population.
These minnows, I know people get minnows to fish with. Do these grow up into bigger fish or do they?
I don't have any idea.
Mm,
Y'all know if
mm,
minnows
no.
grow up.
So hopefully no one.
Minnows,
These are the type of minnows that feeds on the lobbies.
minnows,
Mosquitoes.
they grow up.
They basically say like, just like they are. Basically, it's, the
We're
minnows-
not fishermen.
Yeah. They don't get into a big fish. No, they stay the same size.
So let's hope that no fishermen decide that's a good place to get minnows to go fishing with. Well, mosquitoes are
Okay.
terrible. They're terrible behind my house because the Oyster Bay Golf Course leaves these ruts in there in a wet spot.
99% of our mosquito complaints come from behind us.
Well, I think there's a type of public infrastructure improvement that we ought to be making in the town. That's
Yes.
so I'd like to keep it.
You'd like to keep it?
Yeah, that's my view. Others?
Is this funded similarly to the parking lot?
Yeah,
Same method?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we keep
it just has to be like a one-time capital thing. Otherwise, the auditors, it's not good.
Thank
So we're talking about a $45,000
I can add that to.
45,000 K line in the public infrastructure.
Yeah, so the things that are super important that you think need to be done now, like the parking lot, like the ponds, I can make a note in our budget saying that these things are necessary for the town and we're taking them out, specifically taking them out of fund balance.
Okay?
It's not on like an improvement plan. It's not
Yeah.
on part of an improvement plan where, you know, every 5 years they're gonna have to be replaced or anything like that. It's 100% an improvement to capital.
All right?
I think it's a
Yes?
good idea.
Leave it in there for now. I have a little trouble being enthusiastic for this, but
Well, we serve a lot of people that are affected by the mosquitoes. And,
well, there's mosquitoes everywhere.
well, there are. But if most of the complaints come from behind us here,
Well, like I said,
Yeah.
let's leave it in for now and see where we end
Yeah.
up in the end.
well,
All right.
it's not going to be in the budget. It's going to be come out of like the parking lot.
Now, it'll be in the
It'll
budget,
be in the budget.
But that money will
but you're
come.
just
Will come from
consciously,
the-
right.
Okay.
It'll be I'll add a revenue line saying appropriated fund balance, so it'll match a revenue.
Right.
Okay.
So I know I'm skipping all over the place, y'all. I'm sorry. But if we could jump to 5, we can go ahead and take out administration and finance. Neither Tara nor I are asking for anything other than normal operating. The one thing we are asking for, which crosses basically all of the departments except for police and fire, is the replacement of the 2011 Escape. And we are asking to replace that because this is the vehicle that anybody who goes to training would drive this vehicle to and from. The 2011 is not roadworthy to leave town limits anymore. It does still have some value that some of our part-timers can use it. Our roll cart person can use it. It can be used around town, but we do need to replace it for when on-site training returns, which is hopefully sooner than later, and we can start attending some of our conferences and our trainings in person again. That vehicle was
20,000.
31.9. I mean, it's not earth shattering. It's not the end of the end of the time if we don't replace this vehicle this year. As people, if training does become available for on-site, we obviously reimburse for travel and so this is a request, but not an absolute need.
So are we capturing the cost for the new town administrator in this budget?
Yes.
It's in here already.
Yeah, so it looks a little odd because we had some of where staff was being budgeted for didn't make sense. So one of the employees I had in finance was front desk, which is my accounts receivable position. It was actually being budgeted in administration. So we're fixing that with this budget and that it's coming out of finance because the position is a finance technician and it was coming out of administration. But I think that the position morphed over time.
It did.
And so this is that's why it looks a little off as far as, finance looks like it went up a whole lot, but I haven't asked for anything. I decreased as many lines as I could, but I moved that position into finance so that it was uniform.
Okay.
But it does have the new town administrator position in there.
What is a salary study here?
That's-
It's the reclassification study that we gave y'all in the beginning.
Okay, so that's, But-
It's broken out in every department.
Yeah, every salary line item has that beside
oh,
it.
okay. So that's for next year's budget or for this year's budget?
Next year.
Next,
Next year's budget, okay.
yep. Yeah, any salary adjustments will take effect July 1.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
What was the advertising? Is that like when we advertise for positions in the Beacon?
Advertisement
For
for,
the admin line,
we have it in town council too. It just
Mhm.
depends on what it is. So different publications that we have, or bids that we have, or notices, like different notices that the town has. Some of them come out of, a majority of them comes out of the council budget, and then some of them come out of administration. We took out administration out of every, or advertisement out of all the other ones because there was just so many different, it didn't make sense for each department to have an advertisement line. So the majority of the positions comes out of administration, and then pretty much everything else comes out of council.
and to control advertising, anything that's advertised comes through the administration office.
I just
If it's
see
an employment position, it'll come out of the administration line. If it's a public hearing notice or a public planning board notice, those will come out of the town council advertising budget.
because I see a decrease of $5,500.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of it was coming out of the town council. So that's just an adjustment between departments.
Right. Because town council is tab 4, and it has a $15,000 budget for advertising.
And along those same lines with the town council, the only change is that it's an election year, so we will have that cost. So that's the only reason there's an increase there.
Well, I would think of keeping the staff car in, but recognizing as we go down with the wrap-up, that will be way down on the priority list of if we are having issues meeting the budget.
I
agree
I
with
agree with that.
That's fine.
Yes.
Okay. And then back on number 4, the town council budget. Are y'all good with that?
Mr. Nern wanted a raise, and I don't see it in there.
We missed that. We missed that memo.
It was after I was elected that I knew we even got paid.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Streets and stormwater.
So our insurance went down?
11 and
Is that a
12.
wise thing to do with current?
Oh, which one?
I'm joking.
Oh,
That's fine.
okay.
11 and 12.
Okay, so now we're down to 11 and 12. So let's go back to the handouts that we gave you all. There's a couple of things that you all asked us for. We've already been through the beach monuments, but just so you know that there is a staff report that was given to you today about the beach monuments that had a couple of pictures. Dustin and his crew are working towards what's it called? Pressure washing these monuments, and they'll be making that inventory of what needs to be replaced and what can be held over for you all as they are going through and pressure washing. So we'll come back to you with that list if there are any that we feel just has to be replaced this year.
Are you still planning to pressure wash the first half of May? So that we can schedule painting the second half? Okay. Thank you.
Then the other two things that you have is the town park. We were asked when the council gave us your wish list, we were asked a couple items in the park specifically. Dustin has an arborist that is scheduled to be on site Friday that is going to evaluate all of the trees to tell us if there's any additions or removals or prunings that they are recommending. So we'll come back to you all with that report and if there's a price that goes along with that. Dustin has had preliminary meetings with our landscaper to talk about irrigation in the park. Irrigation in the park is going to be challenging because of the tree canopy that we have. It makes it very difficult for grass to grow up under those trees.
Also, the roots.
And the roots make it an irrigation system not feasible. But there are a couple of locations out there that could use irrigation. So this 60 to 80,000 is a very rough figure. Dustin is still working with the landscaper to come up with a closer one than that. The Live in Shoreline project, we are in the permitting phase with CAMA now. We do have the oyster domes and some oyster shells that are remaining from the first Living Shoreline project. So we don't think there'll be a lot of cost associated with this. This is installed with the use of volunteers and public works staff when this project will come to fruition. So we'll just come back to you all with what that figure is going to be, but we expect that it's going to be minimal at this point. And then the picnic area for the cost of adding electricity, we weren't sure if you were talking about lighting or outlets and how many. So this is a real rough number. But if you'll give us a little more direction, Dustin can get back up with our electrician and find out a more finite number. So that's on the town park. It's really nothing to be budgeted for at this point because we don't have enough information, or we're not real confident in these numbers.
For the Living Shoreline, we used a different environmental group that helped us, spearheaded the project last time. Do we now have the confidence, expertise that we can put those down into the water in the right place without them, or will we try to reach out to that?
I have reached out to the Coastal Federation,
Yeah.
and they basically said they have their own projects that's going on. They won't be able to help us, but yeah, we can do it ourselves. I've watched them do it. The only thing, like Lisa said, the only thing we will have to purchase would be the rock that goes under the oyster shells. That'd be the only other thing that we have to get. So we've got enough oyster shells and we've got the oyster domes to do it.
And do we know where to place them?
Yes, I've already marked it off. I already had the surveyor come in. Everything's been turned over to the engineer. They're working on getting the permitted phase over and getting it over to CAMA. Because it has to go through a major permit for it to be done.
It had to be a major permit.
It has to be a major because it has a major permit holder down there for that park. So anything that's dealing with a park has to go through CAMA. It has to be a major.
Okay, good.
So we'll come back to you with these figures on the park, but just wanted to touch on it and let you know that we did hear you and that we are working on the information that you requested.
So are
And
we
then-
going to take out the irrigation? That sounds like.
No, none of this is in the budget
Oh,
at all because we're not sure with these numbers.
okay.
And as tight as we are, we don't want to put, a big budget in when we only need a third of it.
Okay.
When you talk to the landscaper about the irrigation, and if you cannot do everything, can you get an estimate of what it would be just to hook in and around the Veterans Memorial?
Veteran Memorial will be somewhat of a challenge. One is there's no irrigation line or no taps down there, so we would have to do a water tap with RPZ, everything down on that end. Because the only other one is there's a meter up there at past the exit coming out of the park, but it's on the left-hand side towards the waterway.
Yeah.
So basically, there's casing there. We would have to run the water line through the casing. Then we would have to plow through all the roots from there, through the trees to the monument. But if we come off the other end, you would have to do a little bit more, less trenching, and you won't have to do so much through the tree roots itself on the other end towards Bill's at that end. But you would have to do another water tap for that and run casing under the bricks to get it there.
If you could find, in the process, get a rough estimate of what that would be. And then we will go back to the Committee to Honor American Veterans and see if they want to do it or not. And rather than having the town pay for doing the whole park.
Okay. Do that.
Okay. And then the last thing that was requested of us, that we have for you today is the decorative banners that are put up on the poles. Currently currently Public Works, installs banners on 15 poles throughout town. Dustin has identified 42 additional poles that could be outfitted with banners. And then those locations are included in the staff report that you were given.
The locations?
Yeah.
Shoreline Drive West, Sunset
okay.
Boulevard North and South, and Old Georgetown Road
All right.
are currently where the 42 additional poles are. Right now, for the 15 that they put up, they use the bucket on the backhoe. Basically, and I cringe to say this, they put somebody standing in the bucket, somebody driving the tractor, and somebody standing on the road directing the tractor where to go with the person in the bucket. So, if you want to go to more than the 15 that they're doing now, we're going to need to buy a bucket truck, for their safety as well as the general public that's riding by them. This bucket truck could also be used for other aspects in Public Works and stormwater, pruning trees in the right of way, Christmas decorations. What else? Cameras.
Yeah.
Or you could rent one as needed.
Possibly.
Possibly, yeah. As needed. But see, with the banners, that's 4 seasons. With the banners.
Right. So the banners
That's
would
just
be
double.
changed every 3 to 4 months.
Yes.
Where do we put the 15 banners now? Is it just along Sunset Boulevard?
You got them. You got the Sunset Boulevard. You got the gazebo parking lot, streetscape. You got Sunset Boulevard coming off the bridge at the fire department, coming down through here, Sunset Boulevard, and one out on Seaside Road, also, where we where we put banners at now.
Because you're also talking about adding Old Georgetown.
Yes.
So,
Roughly, when I send this out, I had sent 3 guys out. Like I said, one driving,
Yeah.
one goes up in the bucket to hang the banner, one on the ground watching him, make sure what he's doing, and also watching the guy or watching the one that's driving. Then, by going with a bucket truck, I can send 2 guys out instead of 3. Because by that is, while he's up in the bucket, he drops something or something happens, the other guy on the ground is watching him to make sure he's all right. And if something happens over traffic, he can help also with the traffic.
If we bought a bucket truck, where would we put it?
It would have to go down there at the Public Works building right now.
Sitting outside.
Yes, it had to sit outside.
that kind of brings up a digression. When we do this parking lot out here, my assumption is that we're not going to use it as a public works vehicle or other vehicle storage area.
No, that's not our intent.
No.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't like to see a bucket truck parked out there
No.
over
No,
time.
Staff will park over there.
Yeah,
Staff that comes to town hall
Yeah.
will park over there. Maybe.
yeah. But that wouldn't be vehicle storage areas or
No.
regular motor pool areas.
No,
there.
and the one thing I didn't point out on the design is that the public works, the police department area over there will be fenced. So they, instead of their cars being back here, they will all be housed in a fenced area over behind the parking lot up against this building.
Basically where they're parking at now, for the cars.
We kind of have security cameras and security system monitoring the area to,
It's a locked gate.
Yes.
okay. All right. Like I said, that was a digression. Thoughts on the banners and truck?
So from my perspective, adding more banners is opening up a can of worms right now. In expenses and everything's pretty tight as it is. So I would say we strike the banners right now.
Strike the banners and the truck.
Leave it out.
I agree. Well, that's not in there anywhere now, is it?
Nope.
I mean, so we just do not put it in.
Right. Did you give them this, Sandy? They have this? Okay.
Okay.
And the
But
last
that's-
one,
Anyway, thanks for the research to check this out. So,
I'm gonna combine streets and stormwater for the next discussion, which is basically the salary line item on both of these departments.
Tab,
11 and 12. Currently, this budget includes 2 full-time positions in the Public Works Department and 1 full-time position in the Stormwater Department for a total of about $165,000.
This is above and beyond
Additional
your
employees.
replacements.
Yeah, these are the additionals that these 2 gentlemen have requested. When Tara and I got started on the budget and she was expressing her concerns to me, we started looking at areas that we could cut or reorganize, do better with. And what Matt and Dustin and I have come up with is a compromise for these 3 full-time positions to morph into a permanent part-time division. Both Stormwater and Public Works have some routine task that they perform daily or quarterly or depending on the season that could easily be done by part-timers. Part-time staff is limited to 1,000 hours per year as per the state retirement system rules and regulations. Anybody who works over 1,000 hours a year is deemed full-time by the state retirement system, and retirement is required to be withheld and paid by the town. So this part-time division would capture, we'd know how much money that we could spend on this division, and that would be it. Basically, the tasks that these people could perform during the season is the daily trash collection on the island, the daily dusk sweep of the Strand for abandoned and broken down chairs or things that people have left, holes. Right now, that function is being performed by the full-time or the part-time fire department staff that go back out on the beach at 7:30 right before in the dusk hours and clean up all of that. These people could do that. The Moby mats have to be checked daily to make sure that the tides coming in and out didn't ruffle them or bring them up. Walkway maintenance. These walkways could be walked every day by somebody with that would be looking for a nail sticking up, a board warped. They could also take a broom with them and sweep the steps off at the end. As long as we maintain those steps clean and clear of sand, CAMA doesn't have an issue. But when sand starts building up on those stairs, we can no longer remove that sand once it gets 4 inches.
Yeah, 4 inches.
So by somebody being designated to do nothing but walk these walkways and keep these ends swept off, will save us money in the long run when these steps don't get buried and we don't have to replace them. Dustin can tell you that there are numerous walkways out there that have 3 and 4 sets of steps buried underneath them. The roll cart program that we have, these people could be trained to do one of the 2 mosquito sprayings, which basically is driving a vehicle and flipping the switch. The right-of-ways, mowing of the right-of-ways and the drainage areas. So there's a need for staff to do all these functions. That's evident, no doubt. It does not have to be full-time staff. It can be part-time, which would save us a tremendous amount of money. So we are proposing a pool of money for part-time, basically just like you give to the police department and the fire department for their part-time programs. So what's currently in the budget right now for those 3 full-time positions is $165,000. We are requesting a pool of $70,000. So we're basically would be giving $95,000 back to this budget.
The other thing that I'll add to that, which is something that we talked about with this, was if one of the full timers gets hurt, you're not down and out. Or if 2 of them get hurt at the same time or something like that, you have a pool of people that you can pull from so that we're still maintaining and not losing that time. Just something, recent.
So the idea is maintain the current staffing levels that are on the books,
Correct.
which is 5 for DPW and 2 for stormwater. And instead of adding the 3 additional positions, go for here.
Right.
And the 55,000 per person that you have calculated there, does that also include the FICA and that's the whole cost?
The
per person?
benefits and everything.
Yeah, which actually,
I mean, when we get down into the weeds of it, it's not exact numbers, but I mean, I will, when I come back with you, it will have exact.
but a key point here is it does not increase the permanent staff, which provides them from here on out going ahead with all the cost of keeping a full-time government employee.
Right.
Yeah.
That's 70,000. What are we talking about paying them per hour?
It will depend on their qualifications. When I was looking at the money, I did a 15, 18, and 20 as the dollar amounts, just depending on
Skill sets.
skill sets.
Would you anticipate any problem finding people to work part-time like that?
I don't.
No?
I don't. The only one that really has a problem with finding part-timers right now is the police department. And of course, that makes sense because they have certifications and, they have to be law enforcement and all that. These could be people who are retired that had a landscaping business that loved to mow grass, that could be employed to do nothing but mow grass. So it's just, that's why we're not asking for a number of bodies. We're asking for a pool of money.
Okay.
Because as we've got it scheduled out, we can do it with 4 people, but it might take us 15 people to get those 4 jobs done.
Okay, sounds
Yeah.
sounds good to me.
I'm good with this.
Yeah. Good.
Awesome.
Go for it.
So since Dustin has had the vacancies and Matt has had the vacancies and we are into the season, I don't know if any of y'all saw the beach strand yesterday, but I was astonished when Paul sent me the pictures of how many people were on the beach
Oh, I've been on the
yesterday
beach
already.
just about every day, and yeah,
So-
it's packed.
So we need to get these people hired now. If you all are okay, we're not asking for any additional funding in the budget that we are in right now, as both of those salary lines in both of those departments have funding available because of the vacancies that have occurred in their departments. So we're just asking for you all to give us permission to go ahead and advertise and start hiring this part-time staff.
This isn't going to fill the vacancy positions, though, are they?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm
But
just
the
saying that
vacancy.
There is additional funds
Yeah.
left over from different staffing changes and things like that. So it wouldn't require a budget amendment.
right.
Did you find people for
We have-
your?
We are interviewing 9 next Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
And in those, we will be asking all 10 of those that if they're not offered a full-time position, are they interested in a part-time?
There you go. Okay.
In addition to sending out an advertisement through the Beacon, I'll also send out an e-alert to the community POA people who keep up with their mailing lists to get it sent out to all of our communities to see if we have, some residents who would like some
Summer hires.
summer hires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Any objections?
Nope, not for me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Awesome. So that takes care of the salaries for both of those departments. So for streets, we removed the multi-hog attachment, 27,000. Since we just gave y'all $95,000 back, Dustin probably would really like to have this attachment.
It's an attachment. It's an attachment that can go into the multi hog. It is a mower head. It's 95 inches wide. So basically, I can send one person out in this machine with this attachment on front of it to mow the right of ways with, and I can send my other 2 lawnmowers in a different direction to go do bulkheads and stuff like that on the island where this machine can't go to. But with this machine, I can carry a path, one swipe, where it would take my lawnmowers, the 2 lawnmowers that I've got, to make the same path. So I can send one guy out in this machine. It's cab, air conditioner, heat, and all. So he's out of the elements. But I can send like I said, the lawnmowers in a different direction where this machine can't go, but and get it done.
This is 27,000.
Yeah, approximately. It could be a little bit less, I was told.
Oh, it's 27.
Yeah, that's the high. That's on the high end. But it could be less.
My first reaction is since with the consideration of the employment changes y'all been willing to make, I think we'll leave this in.
I'm good.
Charlie?
Yeah.
Okay, leave it in.
Appreciate that.
Well, this is the initial cut,
I know.
not the final cut.
I know. I still thank you though.
So that completes streets. If you don't have any other questions, that. Then on stormwater, the only thing that we've done on the stormwater is we have removed 180,000 that is planned for this year. This is the help me, Matt. This is the
4th through 6th in Canal Drive project.
This is the 4th, 5th, 6th stormwater project of where all of the water that leaves that area is going straight to those canals. So we heard you all when you said figure out a different way or a way to reduce some of the runoff that is going directly into the canals. With that, Dustin has found the money in the current budget that we're in right now to go ahead and to do the short streets to try to get that taken care of before the summer, next week even. So that will prevent, take away that much, just like 12th and
10th.
10th has been done. And then I have tasked them with going back to the engineers and figuring out how to capture the East End water, Main Street, side streets, Canal Drive, and figure out a different way to take at least 50% of all the water that's coming off of that end of the island somewhere differently than into those canals. So that is obviously going to take a little time. So that's why I asked Matt if we could remove this 180,000 from the plan, since we know that it may or may not be done this year. They may come up with a wonderful solution that takes it in a completely different direction. We just don't know now. He's in the very early stages of talking with the engineers. Basically McGill, who developed our stormwater plan anyway. So that's why the 180,000 is removed. If they, in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, come up with a plan that will deal with this issue, then we can come to you at that point and ask for a budget amendment for that amount, for whatever the amount would be at that time.
So for the short streets, as you said, that would be to put down gravel?
57 stone
slate.
slate.
Stone, okay.
Mhm. Yeah, they're doing that now. He's doing that in this budget. He's got the money in this budget to do that.
And what about the fish streets, as I call them?
The
Can we do
fish
anything
streets are
there?
a different animal,
Yeah, it's a much longer street.
right?
Yeah, you would have to, or the residents or the property owners on the property would have to, same thing about the pavement, would engage a petition to town to go that route.
Yeah.
I would not recommend putting 57 slate on that road, on them roads, because one, if we decide to pave it, some base has to be put over top of the rocks, or the rocks have to come up. Because you can't put asphalt on top of the 57 slate. You can't do the rock. You got to put some type of base down. So one or the other have to occur for you to pave it.
Okay.
There's also a difference in the fish streets. You do not have the same, I call it a percentage of runoff water that goes directly into the canals, because the fish street, the street is in the middle, and then there are property lines on both sides with houses and other areas to absorb some of the water, where those short streets, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, pretty much feed, everything washes off of that, feeds pretty directly into the canals. I mean, and that's sort of, if you will, a runoff difference in terms of what goes on there. And the 57 slate appears to have worked pretty successfully on 12th Street, or 10th Street, is
Yes,
the
sir.
first one we did.
Yes.
So we knocked 180 off of the stormwater plan, understanding that there may be some type of a future cost to come up with a different solution to it. I'm okay with that.
So is that reflected in the numbers now? So,
It's, yeah, it's already been removed.
okay, it's already out. Okay. Makes sense.
I'm fine.
I think we've got through everything.
Yeah, I think that covers everything.
So just rough calculations that I was doing, I think we're at like a $60,000 shortfall right now, like with what adjustments we would have to make.
60,000?
Yeah, just roughly.
So what I wrote down, 30,000 in planning, 118 in fire, 75 in accommodation, 330 in infrastructure for the lot.
But that's
Gonna
a
come
line
directly
item.
from fund balance.
Oh, okay, so we leave out the 330 and the 45,
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
wouldn't be part of the figure.
Then the 32 for the escape
right? And 27
and 27 for the multi-haul.
for the multi.
And then, but the only other thing I would say to keep in mind too is that that's not preparing us for the future either yet.
It's not what?
If there's a 60,000 shortfall, the plan that showing the capital improvement plan for moving forward with capital purchases in future years, we're still not set up for that. I mean, we're really close to having a balanced budget, but we're still not planning yet.
And we didn't do police.
And we haven't done police.
Yeah, we haven't done police yet.
Right.
Okay.
And the police, we're looking at tasers, Lexipol, one vehicle.
To clarify, this current budget as written includes the increase from the salary study.
It's in there.
That's already in there.
Yeah.
Just
It's broken down on each department.
Right, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure, just for my mind, to
Yeah, it's-
clarify that.
I didn't take out any of that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And the recommended merits and bonus
It's in there.
is in there as well.
And I put the specific numbers for each of those in the side so you can see what it is. And then the total of it is in the summary page in the boxes.
Do you have, going back on the salary study that you have here, do you have a version that also has the position descriptions, position titles that go with each of the grades?
That's what you have.
Yeah, that's for 2018.
That's what we're using right now.
Okay,
The second page of that is what we're proposing though. And that has the numbers. That's the proposal.
oh, okay.
Yeah, this is
it's-
what ours
it's-
will
It's
go
there,
to.
it's
Yeah.
just, okay, haven't had time to look at it. All right,
All right, so we'll come back to you on the 20th with these adjustments that have been made today.
And I'll get them to you much prior to that. As soon as I get them done, I'll make sure that you get them.
And then we'll go ahead and talk to Ken, and if he's going to pursue the lease program for the tasers, we'll take this one off the board. And then what was the other?
It's the replacement of a staff vehicle and Lexipol.
Do you want us to go ahead and add those two in just to show you what our shortfall will be, or so that we can come as close to a balanced budget?
If we do that,
for
then
you
at
all?
the end of the next meeting, with those added in and all the decisions we've made today, then we go back through and do different cuts.
What'll be added in?
Police department.
Oh, okay.
Police has a vehicle, tasers, Lexapol,
Yeah, okay.
and their educational. You've already worked in the educational.
Yeah, all that's
incentives.
still in here.
Yeah.
Anything that had to do with it, like pay, the fitness incentive, that's part of salary, so that's still in here as well. The only thing I removed from the police department was Lexapol, which was 33,000. The tasers, which we can rework to make that much less, and then replacing of one vehicle.
Right.
So it's 116,000, but technically it's less than that because of the 35,000 being reduced down to, I want to say it was around 5 or 6,000 per year.
For a lease.
Do the inspections department use that admin vehicle?
No,
Okay.
Chad would. Planning department
Yeah,
does.
he doesn't count though. I mean, for using inspection fees to supplement that.
Right. Yeah, Cindy would use it when she goes to school.
But she's half and half, so.
Right. She's half
Yeah.
inspections,
So-
half planning.
So would finance one tire off of the vehicle. Okay.
So when we walk out of the April 20th meeting, we need to have a final draft budget. So at the May 3rd meeting, Tara can present you all with the final draft, and you all can set a public hearing for the June meeting.
And you can change things. It's not best practice.
Yeah.
But I mean,
At the June
You
meeting,
wanna-
we want to have the public hearing that says this is the budget, and we want the council to say this is the budget,
right.
not to say, oh, let's drop or add X, Y, or Z at that
Correct.
meeting.
Correct.
So this next meeting, April 20th, you'll take and compile all this, and in a way, perhaps to have all the decisions where we have on capital that we know and what we have to cut if we need to cut anything to bring us down to a balanced budget. So we don't have to think that hard, just make a decision.
Right.
All right. Are we comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Really?
All right.
Thank you very much. A lot of work went into this by all the departments.
Yes.
Tara, you probably did a little bit too, so thank you.
So then the public meeting is to inform the public what's been decided, not to have any discussion about.
Public's allowed to make
Really?
comments on the budget. It's like a public hearing that we have for everything. So they get their 3 minutes to make comment on what they believe the budget to be. Or whatever.
And when do we do the nonprofit decision-making process?
That's in the accommodations tax, and
I think I
Did
have.
you, did you,
Let's see, what did I put there?
27,000.
Yeah, so I think I put in the total of what they had asked for. Where's my summary page?
Which tab is that again?
This is 18
18.
accommodations tax.
Tourism funding, is that it? Yeah, community nonprofits.
Yes.
nonprofits? Okay.
Yeah, so I put in the total
Because
of
we,
what-
we did not have any discussion whatsoever as to whether we wanted to support
you can absolutely.
all or part of any of those nonprofits.
Yeah, so the entire amount is in this budget right now. Of what everybody asked for was 27,000. I mean, that's something that you can discuss right now. If you have any thoughts. Because then I could fix that in here as well.
Well, I think that the one group that didn't show, that they should not,
BFA?
should not receive funding is my first inclination.
So it's Brunswick Family Assistance. They asked for 2,500. I didn't make it a requirement for them to come. I didn't tell them it was dependent on them coming, just as a side note.
Yeah. I would make a pitch that out of all of these, that probably is the one that does the most needy type of activity throughout the county.
Brunswick family.
Yeah, budget family
So,
assistance.
I mean, they did submit a complete application, and of what they do and supporting documents and things like that too.
What does Chamber of Commerce do for us in terms of supporting the town?
Marketing.
Do they?
Well, the pitch that was presented to us was part of the marketing that they do for tourism and businesses coming in.
They support the businesses in Sunset Beach.
Includes us, Sunset Beach.
Just a quick rundown. We had the planetarium at 10,000, the Chamber of Commerce for 5, Twin Lakes for 4,500, Family Assistance 2,500, Lower Cape Fear Life Care 2,500, and the Literacy Council for 2,500.
Last year, for the planetarium, we gave them 3,500. Last year for Chamber of Commerce, they wanted 4,600. We gave them 1,000. Last year, Twin Lakes wanted 10,000. We gave them 0. Brunswick Family Assistance last year wanted 3,000 and we gave them 2,000, I think. Lower Cape Fear Life Care, I think we gave them 2,000 last year. I'm not sure on that.
Life
What
Care,
are
we gave them 2,000.
2,000. And the Literacy Council last year asked for 4,600 and we gave them 1,000. So we gave a total of 10,500 last year to that.
What is Life Care asking for? I don't have that written.
They're asking for 2,500.
And so the two highest with the administration fees are Lower Cape Fear Life Care at 27% and the planetarium at 19% as well, if that comes in anybody's considerations as well.
Yeah.
The others are down 10% or less.
As for the planetarium, they serve the whole county, but the only ones they ask money from is us. They don't go to Calabash, Carolina Shores, Charlotte, any of those, and that's their standard operating procedure.
To ask for money from those towns that they are physically located in and they have their facility. So the museum asks for Ocean Isle Beach and the planetarium asks for Sunset Beach.
Well, and if I recall correctly during the presentation for the planetarium, it was stated that Ocean Isle supports more, but because those two entities are entwined, is that what was meant by that? Did they support the planetarium directly, or is that just they're supporting the museum because it's the same group? That would be a question that I have. But, I mean, I don't have a problem supporting them, but at 10,000, I'd have an issue with that, I think.
Yeah. Last year they asked for 10 and we gave them 3,500 last year.
Cool.
Well, I tell you,
I could, one other thing that we can look at with this is one of the aspects of that American Recovery Plan is supporting of nonprofits in your community.
Yeah.
We don't have specifics about that money yet of what we're going to do with it, but that is one aspect of that money because we didn't have any significant revenue loss that we can even try to justify, but that is one piece of that I know that we would be able to use.
Yeah. Well, the planetarium itself both in terms of losing their employment, and they cited a large figure, was it 100,000 or so,
Yeah.
that they've gone in a hole, they've made loans and stuff like that. So they probably would be, when the relief funds come through, would be a place to put it. We'll probably have to make our budget decisions before the relief funds come through.
Well, yeah, we'll get them July 15th. I mean, June 15th.
Yeah.
I was just like, in consideration of what we're giving them, I mean, that you can budget it in this and however you decide to use it. But I believe that that would be able to support whatever your decisions are for that. And that's the only aspect of that whole entire plan that I do know has some sort of direction.
Yeah.
At this point.
One of the questions that I thought of later about Twin Lakes, because I asked the question, do the property owners contribute to that? And he said, yes, it was voluntary. I don't know, the question would be, how many property owners really voluntarily contribute to that?
I don't have any idea.
That's a good question. The thing I think about Twin Lakes is the environmental impact of that lake building up. When they used to come and ask us for money and did nothing for themselves, I didn't think we should give them anything because they're not helping themselves, but now they do. And if we gave them something even just to put more carp in there, I know it's private property, and the property owners won't step up and do anything.
Yeah.
They do make donations, but their responsibility is much greater. It's here in Sunset Beach. I come by that bird watch and I just see people all hours of the day. I think we should give them something. I just don't know how much.
The letter that they sent us, part of the packet at least, indicate that just the sort of the maintenance that gets done on a yearly basis of treatments, which doesn't solve the big problem of the dredge and
Right.
the sludge that is built up underneath, is 6 treatments of $1,470 a treatment, or $880, $8,820 just for the periodic treatments, without getting those blocks of materials that they were talking about that could start to have long-term impact. So, somewhere in there, they are raising money and the community is supporting it. I don't know how many of the people give.
Yeah.
It is a part of our community. Visitors always, are always stopping there, so I don't have any problem with providing some support to that. My thinking along the lines is hopefully the American Rescue Plan, is it rescue or recovery? It's the COVID plan, relief plan, I think would be able to be used for the planetarium. So I'd be very comfortable cutting and only giving them, say, about $5,000. The Chamber of Commerce, we gave them $1,000 last year. I'd be happy giving them $1,000 this year. the Twin Lakes, they wanted 4,500, but I'd be comfortable allocating about 2,000. BFA wanted 2,500. I'm comfortable giving them 2,500. They use that money well throughout the county, including people in our community. Lower Cape Fear, the Life Care, they wanted 2,500. I'd say maybe not the full thing, but somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000. The Literacy Council, 2,500. I think that's an important thing that benefits the whole community, so I'm comfortable 2,500 there, just as a starting plot for,
What does that total out to? Did anyone tally that up?
No. 5, 6.
14,
Comes up to 14,000.
14, I did it right. 10, 11.
So 5,
That's
2.
if you're giving hospice 1,000.
And last year we did.
15,000 if you give them 2.
Last year we did
Sorry.
like 10, 7, I think I heard.
Pardon?
Last
Last
year.
year we did 10, 7
Total.
total. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. What figure did we come for the Lower Cape Fear Life Center? You said between 1 and 2, how
Yeah.
about 1.5?
Yeah, I'd like to see that a little bit higher as well. I mean, they do a tremendous service.
Okay. 2,000?
2,000 will work for me for that.
Yeah. Okay. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Comes up to 16,000 by my count.
You said 5 planetarium. How much for the chamber?
1.
One? Okay.
1,000.
That'd be 15,000 then, yeah. 2 for Twin Lakes, 2,500 for BFA, 2,000 for Life Care, and 2,500 for literacy.
I got 15.
I still think we're high on the planetarium.
Other views?
I tend to agree with Charlie on that, especially considering if we are looking at potential for further funding, that we would be able to direct that way. I'd go, 2,500 on that one as well, or 3.
I'd go 2.5.
2,500.
Yeah, 2,500.
Tom?
Fine with me.
With the understanding that we're expecting to be able to contribute more potentially going forward.
5, 6, 7, 9, 10,
So that's
11, 12.
12.5.
12.5. Everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Tara, do you have it?
Got it.
Got it? Okay. Anything else we miss here?
I think you covered it.
Thanks for remembering that, John.
So do we have to do anything else to wrap up? Do I have a motion to close?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I was thinking, yes.
Okay, meeting's closed. Thank you very much.